What's going on? Clay Travis here, aka the most reasonable man in all of sports media. The world has lost its mind over what happened with Myles Garrett last night. Your boy's down in the Florida Keys getting ready to officiate a wedding tomorrow. Congrats to Lori Kelly and to her fiance. Lori used to be my Outkick editor, so it's going to be pretty cool to officiate the wedding tomorrow. Already people taking shots at my hair. I just got out of the shower. I'm about to go to the beach, but I wanted to weigh in on Myles Garrett. Never taking days off. Always there for you. Always here to be the most eminently reasonable man in the world of sports. And so here, in the event that you haven't seen the clip yet, late last night in the Browns and Steelers game, Myles Garrett lost his mind. He hit Mason Rudolph in the head with his own helmet. Now, I know that trying to be intelligent and look at precedent and be reasonable in reacting to sports stories is not necessarily always the coin of the realm. But the best precedent to use here is Albert Haynesworth. Back in 2006, he stepped on the head of Andre Garrod, who was a offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys. With his cleat, Garrod did not have his helmet on. It was an outside of the bounds of the play performance. And as a result, Garrod had to get 30 stitches, all right? And Albert Haynesworth was suspended for 4 games. And so this is not a complicated situation. What should happen to Myles Garrett at minimum is he should be suspended for at least 4 games, potentially the rest of the season. His behavior was outside the bounds of acceptable behavior during a game. This isn't like somebody getting hit going over the middle. This isn't like a play that is borderline dirty, but occurs in between the whistles while the play is actually taking place. This was, beyond a shadow of a doubt, outside the bounds of acceptable behavior. I think Myles Garrett, at least 4 games, potentially the rest of the season, he should be suspended. Now, I'm also not saying that Mason Rudolph was perfect in his behavior, but everybody out there who's talking about self-defense is an idiot. Anyone who has ever studied the law remotely knows that self-defense has to be in a reasonable nature. In other words, you have to fear death or serious bodily harm for yourself. We have HD cameras from virtually every angle here. Myles Garrett did not fear death or serious bodily injury when he attacked Mason Rudolph with his own helmet. That self-defense angle does not play. Could Mason Rudolph potentially get fined somewhat? Yes, certainly that could happen. Will other people get suspended? Maybe. Maybe Maurkice Pouncey, who went and defended Mason Rudolph, could end up getting suspended as well. But the big takeaway here is Myles Garrett's behavior was completely unacceptable. It was outside the bounds of the game itself. Now, do I think he should be charged with a crime? Absolutely not. I think that makes a mockery of the criminal justice system. I think that would be ludicrous. I think anybody who brought charges would be a DA looking for overall attention as opposed to equitable forms of justice here. I also think that some of the behavior of the sports media that covers this story has been exposed. Josina Anderson from ESPN immediately tweeted essentially calling Mason Rudolph a racist and saying he must have provoked Myles Garrett here. That's a ludicrous thing to tweet. She deleted it, but it should be worth bearing that ESPN is always looking for an opportunity to race bait whenever they possibly could. Moreover, somebody saying something bad to you does not give an opportunity to you to severely injure them. I don't understand the world that we live in now, where if somebody says something mean to you, you don't have the right to attack them. That isn't how the law works. When I was a kid, we were taught sticks and stones may break your bones. Nowadays, if people say something mean to you, it's like, oh, they said something mean to you, so I'll justify every action that follows there. That's absolutely ludicrous. Words don't matter compared to actions. Even if Mason Rudolph said something inflammatory, of which there is zero evidence so far, it doesn't support the response of Myles Garrett at all in any way. Furthermore, again, reasonable defense needs to be applied here. If somebody bumps into you at a bar, you don't get the right to kill them. You have to believe that you are in danger of death or serious bodily harm. That wasn't a situation at play here in any remote fashion, all right? Myles Garrett is in the wrong here. Credit to Baker Mayfield, who immediately responded after the game, which is often very difficult to do on the field with the exact right tone. I'm stunned that Myles Garrett wasn't smart enough to accept responsibility and blame and the consequences for his actions. Myles Garrett is not a bad dude. Pretty smart guy. Got a 31 on the Wonderlic, which is higher than the average quarterback gets. He's too smart to have behaved in this dumb of a fashion. I wonder if something off the field is going on with Myles Garrett. He started off the season by punching Delaney Walker in the helmet, in the face, where, during the week 1, he had the very questionable hit on Trevor Siemian. He's been playing on the edge all season long. And I believe that this is just the culmination of something that's going on off the field for him. I don't claim to understand exactly what's going on, but he needs help. He needs to enter into anger management, I think, as a part of this suspension. Furthermore, the Browns have been playing out of control all year under Freddie Kitchens. Remember, the Browns don't have to wait for the NFL to take action. They could suspend Myles Garrett. Jimmy Haslam could decide to suspend Myles Garrett right now. Freddie Kitchens, in consultation with his owner and his GM, could decide to suspend Myles Garrett. The larger structure of the Browns is broken right now. Myles Garrett, I believe, is the individual who is to blame here. But the larger structure is an issue. Myles Garrett's the best defensive player of the Browns. What kind of leadership is he showing? Baker Mayfield is the quarterback leader of the Browns. Odell Beckham Jr., what kind of leadership are they showing? All of these incidents are under investigation to me, and certainly part of the larger part and parcel of the Browns organization being dysfunctional. So this is a mess. Again, I don't support the idea of any kind of criminal charges. I don't support in any way the idea of any suspension beyond potentially the rest of this season. I think people like Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, who are idiots and are arguing, oh my God, this guy should be banned for life. Colin Kaepernick got banned for life. I think this kind of situation exposes for you how unreasonable many of the people who respond and cover sports are on a daily basis. Again, if I were NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, my response would be pretty straightforward here. I would suspend, based on the precedent in play from Albert Haynesworth when he stomped on the guy's face and caused him to get stitches, I would suspend Myles Garrett for a minimum of 4 games and probably for the rest of the season, and allow him to come back next year after he goes to anger management and gets treatment and hopefully learns from his error. So I think that makes complete sense. The reasonable response here is a minimum of 4 games, a maximum of the rest of the season. Let him go to anger management. Let him learn from his actions. Let him apologize and allow him to come back next year. I think that's the reasonable response. I don't think it's overreacting. I think that is the equitable and judicious response if I were the commissioner of the NFL. Pouncey is an interesting situation. I'd probably suspend him for a game because of all the punches he threw, but I think his response was actually reasonable. That is legitimate self-defense. If you see someone being assaulted who could be severely injured and you feel the need to come to their defense, I thought Pouncey's response in attacking Myles Garrett was actually reasonable, because at that point in time, Myles Garrett had attacked with a weapon an individual that he could have severely injured. Garrett is lucky that Mason Rudolph has a hard-ass head and didn't get hit at the right angle, because this could have certainly been a criminal charge if there had been a severe injury in play. In fact, I think there would have. The other thing that factors in here for Myles Garrett is he's fortunate this took place in Cleveland. I think it's likely that a grandstanding DA, potentially, if this had taken place in Pittsburgh, would pursue criminal charges because the local fan base would support it, because they don't like the Browns already and they feel like their player was attacked maliciously without having done anything that justified that attack. So if this were taking place in Pittsburgh, I think there's a decent chance that charges could be filed, because the DA would be grandstanding for the public approval and would open up an investigation and likely bring charges. But again, I wouldn't support it in Pittsburgh. I don't support it in Cleveland. I don't think we need the criminal justice system involved. But Myles Garrett does need to be suspended for at least 4 games under the Albert Haynesworth precedent, and potentially for the rest of the season. One difference between Haynesworth and the Myles Garrett situation now is social media exists. and we are able to share videos now in a way we weren't in 2006. So it becomes a bigger story as a result because everybody can watch the video, even the people who weren't watching it, and have a reaction to it. So that's why I think the likelihood is that Myles Garrett gets 6 games, but it should be built under the same precedent by which the commissioner suspended Albert Haynesworth back in the day. This was an outside the bounds of football, unacceptable move and behavior by Myles Garrett, and he's going to have to pay the consequences for what he did. All right, I love all of you guys. Any questions quickly here before I head out to the beach down in the Florida Keys? This is, I think, the resolution that makes the most sense. Again, I will go ahead and bounce out. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Coverage, Outkick the Show. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP, go read the mailbag. I wrote a lot about this as well there at Outkick.com. I will see you guys. This has been a special edition of Outkick the Show, all about Myles Garrett. See y'all.